For today's tool tip, Kate Richbourg is taking her tools to the spa, and we're going to chat online. Hi, Kate.
Hey, Katie Hacker, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Yeah, it's like we're hanging out online. It's awesome.
Yeah, hanging out in cyberspace. That's a great studio behind you.
Yeah, my studio space, you can see all my tools here behind me. It's where I work.
It's really impressive.
So I have a little problem, though, about my studio. Since it's in South San Francisco, sometimes it can get a little damp here. And dampness and tool don't always mix. So I like taking my tools to the tool spa, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to kind of clean things up a little bit and kind of remove some rust.
Sounds good. Let's see what's happening.
My dapping block has a little bit of rust happening. Can you see that? Which we don't like at all. Yeah. So I've gathered a few of my essential things that I use. I've got some steel wool here, and this is a fairly coarse steel wool, number 3. And then I've got some sandpaper. I've got about a 400 grit and a 600 grit sandpaper. And the big part of this is your friend and mine, WD-40. So what I do is I start by getting a little towel and placing it on my surface here. And I'm going to move everything so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. And I'm going to take my WD-40 and I'm just going to spray it all over the place where I've got rust. And you guys, you want to make sure that you're doing this in a pretty well ventilated area because, as you know, WD-40 is a little stinky. So I'm going to take some of my steel wool and I'm going to just buff and rub that WD-40 all over where my piece is rusty. And I do this, I take my tools to the tool spa, I don't know, a couple of times a year, usually in the spring and in the fall. And, you know, it just, because also I travel with these tools, so, you know, they get, sometimes when they come home out of the box, they're also a little rusty. So it's hard to keep steel tools really super pristine. So you can see, after I've done that little bit of WD-40ing, you can still see there's some staining, but it's all really super smooth. And, you know, especially for a dapping block, you guys, you want this to be as smooth as it can be.
Wow, it really shines it up.
It looks a lot better already. You can see here's you know, a rusty place, and here's where we remove the rust. And that staining won't hurt anything, really. So now I take my sandpaper, and I'm going to start with my heavier grit. This is a 400 grit. And I'm just going to use that to buff things out a little bit if I want to. And you can see I'm going to just rub it along here. That'll remove a little bit of the staining. And you don't want to use any sandpaper that has too heavy of a grit because that's going to mark your metal. I would just make sure that your sandpaper really is no coarser than about a 400 grit and that your steel wool is not too coarse either. This is a 3, so it's pretty coarse, so it'll get the rust off, but it won't harm your metal because we don't want to, you know, mark these because we're using them for tools. And you can see I'm following up here with our 600 grit, and you can go even finer to, you know, 1100 or 1600, and just keep buffing things until you like the way they look. And you can also even follow up with another spray of your friend and mine, the WD-40. And that will take off any of that residue that might be left on there. And you can see we've got a pretty good looking, pretty clean tool. And let me show you one last trick with this.
Sure does. It looks good.
Yeah. I'm going to show you one last thing. I'm going to grab over here my trusty packet. You guys know, some of you guys know how much I love my pro polishing pads. This is a little polishing pad that I use with jewelry, kind of my final step. Sometimes I do that here after I've taken my tools to the tool spa, and I just give them a final little polish. And this pad is a little plastic, or it's like a foam rubber pad that has just the finest little tooth to it and a little bit of polishing agent, and that gets rid of the very last bits of gunk.
Wow, it really shines it up.
And you can see my dapping block is now ready for its close-up.
Definitely, that looks great. Those are some great tips, Kate. Thanks so much. We'll have to do this again.
Totally. So just know you can do this with all of your steel tools. Take them to the spa.